She tried to destroy me by not accepting the end, and she almost succeeded. My name is Kaio. I'm 29 years old today, but this story began when I was 26. At the time, I was in one of the best moments of my life, or at least I thought I was. I had just received a major promotion at my family's company, something I had worked hard to achieve. My father, Ottavio, was always demanding, the kind who doesn't praise anyone for anything. So when he gave me this recognition, I felt like I was finally being seen as a responsible adult. I had been dating Natalia for 2 years, an intelligent, charismatic woman who was always very kind to everyone. At least, that's what everyone saw. We lived together and were planning to get married. I truly believed I had found a life partner. In the beginning, my relationship with Natalia was light, full of exchanges, companionship, and shared dreams. She got along well with my family, especially my father, which I thought was great. Her image was always well-maintained, and she made a point of being present at family dinners, business events, and even Sunday get-togethers with my aunts and uncles and cousins. I felt lucky. Sure, there were some odd signs from time to time, like when she got irritated if I didn't answer the phone on time, or when she made harsh comments about women at work, but nothing I considered a real problem at the time. I thought it was just petty jealousy, something every couple goes through. Things slowly began to change. The first glimmer came when she mentioned that her ex-boyfriend had lost his mother-in-law and was deeply distraught. I thought the situation was delicate, but I trusted her to handle it, until she asked me to go to the wake with him. She said it was a matter of empathy, that he needed support and that she wanted to be there. I was uncomfortable, of course. I responded respectfully but firmly. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it. I had nothing against him, but I didn't think it was appropriate. That's when she changed. Immediately, her sweet tone disappeared, and she accused me of being insensitive, of not understanding the other person's pain. I thought it was disproportionate, but I let it go. But the next day, she broke up with me, coldly, bluntly, as if 2 years meant nothing. The end of the relationship devastated me. I blamed myself for being too harsh, and I started to think that maybe I was being selfish. Natalia disappeared for a few weeks, and during that time, I tried to focus on work, family, and myself. But things started to get strange. A cousin of mine told me he saw Natalia having lunch with my father. Later, someone else at the company mentioned that she showed up at a meeting as Ottavio's special guest. I didn't want to believe it, but when I confronted my father, he said he was just listening to her ideas for a social project, that it was all professional. My head started spinning. What? She had broken up with me and now she was getting close to my family. The penny dropped when, weeks later, my father called me in for a serious talk. He said he'd thought a lot about the future of the company and the inheritance, and that he didn't think I was ready to take on everything yet. He removed me from the project I was leading and said he was going to reevaluate my role in the company. This had never happened before. That same week, I saw photos of Natalia at dinner with my family, as if nothing had happened. It was a punch in the gut. I came to understand and discovered that she was trying to get closer to my father, sell an investment idea, and even build ties with my uncles. It was a plan. She was trying to infiltrate my family after breaking up with me, and worse, she was succeeding. But my father is no fool. Ottavio may be tough, but he's perceptive. It didn't take long for him to realize Natalia's intentions. When she started pressuring him for investments and favors, he cut everything off. He told her he didn't trust anyone who played with feelings, and to everyone's surprise, he decided to give me back my position at the company, but on one condition, that I set clear boundaries and stay away from relationships that could jeopardize my emotional stability and the family name. I accepted. I thought it was finally over, but the nightmare was just beginning. Natalia came back to me, but this time with a completely different mask. She cried, saying she'd made mistakes, that she still loved me, that she was confused. At first, I confess, I was shaken. We have this habit of romanticizing the past when we're hurt, but as she continued to insist, I realized something was off. She started showing up unannounced at my work. She sent messages every day from different numbers. She created fake profiles on social media, making comments about where I was, who I was with, what I was wearing. It was as if she were watching me constantly. I became paranoid. I couldn't sleep. I lost weight, and I started having anxiety attacks. I tried to talk, to ask her to stop. I was polite at first, then I begged, but the more I tried to distance myself, the closer she got. One time she showed up at my apartment building in the middle of the night, saying she was pregnant. I was in shock. The next day, she showed up with falsified test results, which a doctor friend of mine refuted in seconds. It was a level of manipulation I never imagined I'd witness in my life. She threatened to tell lies about me to my family, my work, even the police. She said that if I didn't get back with her, she would destroy me. I felt like I was in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. I even considered leaving everything. I thought about quitting, moving to another city, disappearing. But something inside me screamed that I couldn't let her win. I started documenting everything, screenshots, audio, images from the building's cameras. A lawyer, a family friend, advised me to file police reports. The worst part was that even though I did everything legally, I felt guilty, as if I was overreacting, as if I were creating a problem with someone who just wanted a second chance. But when she broke into my building's garage, jumped the gate, and scratched the word traitor on the hood of my car, I realized it was more serious than I wanted to admit. I began living on high alert. Every noise on the street made me look out the window. Every notification on my phone made my heart race. I started therapy because I couldn't trust anyone anymore. I distanced myself from people, afraid she'd manipulate them too. And she tried. She texted my friends saying I was abusive, that she'd tried to take her own life because of me. Some friends walked away without even listening. Others feigned neutrality. And it hurt more than I imagined. The only people who truly stood by me were my therapist, my younger brother, and a childhood friend who'd known Natalia since the beginning and always had reservations. One day, I received an anonymous letter at work. Inside were photos of me with other people, clearly taken without my consent, at random moments, at the grocery store, on the sidewalk, in the car. It was like being punched. The letter said, "Either you come back, or the photos will end up on the internet with a nice story behind them." I immediately went straight to the police station. It was stalking. It was a crime. And this time, the officer who attended to me took it seriously. Based on previous records, the police reports, and the evidence I'd been gathering, we secured a protective order. Seeing the signature on that document gave me a relief I didn't even know was possible. Of course, she tried to circumvent the order. She sent a friend of hers to approach me as if I were a new acquaintance, to probe my routine. Then she tried to impersonate someone else on apps, but this time I was smart. With the help of the lawyer and the police, we strengthened the case, and it wasn't quick. It took months of hearings, wiretaps and depositions. Going through it all exhausted me, but I knew I had to see it through. I wanted my peace back. I wanted to go out on the street without looking back. I wanted to sleep a whole night without dreaming of persecution or blackmail. When the day of the final hearing arrived, I was shaking from head to toe. Reliving everything there, in front of a judge, lawyers, and my family, was one of the most difficult moments of my life. Natalia cried, saying it was all unresolved love, that I had provoked her, that she just wanted to be heard. But the evidence spoke louder. The messages, the images, the screenshots, the testimonies. The judge was clear: harassment, stalking, and attempted defamation. She was sentenced to restrictive legal measures with mandatory monitoring and psychological counseling. When the judge struck the gavel, I cried. For the first time in a long time, I cried with relief. From that moment on, a new kind of struggle began, rebuilding my life, trusting again, reconnecting with people who had drifted away, rediscovering myself without the weight of that trauma on my shoulders. Therapy was crucial. With each session, I cleaned a wound. I understood that the guilt I felt wasn't mine, that I was the victim of a cycle of manipulation and emotional abuse. And most importantly, I understood that being a man didn't make me immune to this kind of violence. We grow up hearing that we have to endure everything, that we have to be strong, that men don't suffer in relationships, but they do, and they need help like everyone else. I gradually found myself again. I started playing sports again, traveled alone, connected with new people, and reconnected with old ones. Today, I still carry some scars. Sometimes a loud sound scares me more than it should. Sometimes a name similar to hers makes me uncomfortable. But that no longer defines me. I regained my freedom. And more than that, I regained myself. I became more attentive, more empathetic, and above all, more assertive in saying no when something doesn't feel good. Telling this story here isn't easy. Reliving it all hurts. But I know that just as I felt alone during that time, others may be going through something similar now. And if this story helps just one person feel understood or have the courage to ask for help, it will be worth it. No one deserves to live in fear. No one deserves to be silenced by blackmail. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to control their life, their routine, their body, or their emotions based on unhealthy love disguised as affection. One of the most symbolic moments for me was when I was invited to speak at a discussion group on abusive relationships geared towards men. At first, I hesitated. Talking about it publicly scared me, fear of judgment, of labeling, of shame. But when I stood on that makeshift stage and looked at the attentive faces of other men, some with teary eyes, I knew I needed to be there. I told my story from beginning to end. No embellishments, no exaggerations, just the truth. And at the end, I got a hug from a guy who said, "I thought I was the only one going through this." That gave me goosebumps. My relationship with my father also changed a lot after all this. Ottavio was a tough man, the kind who only expressed himself through demands. But seeing me emotionally destroyed, he began to let his guard down. One day, out of the blue, he called me to the porch and said, "I'm sorry I didn't see what you were going through. I should have protected you." It was a brief but profound moment. It rekindled something between us. Since then, our conversations have been more listening, less judgmental. I think in the end, this story has made us both a little more human. Today, I'm still building my new self. I haven't become a self-improvement guru, nor have I become a millionaire with self-help books. But I have become a man who knows his limits, who respects his emotions, and who learned the hard way possible the importance of self-love. I have a new, lighter, more sincere relationship with someone who understands my limits and embraces my insecurities with respect, not manipulation. And most importantly, I've learned to live well alone, without depending on anyone to feel complete. Sometimes I still catch myself remembering it all as if it were a movie. The scenes come back in flashes. Natalia crying at the door, the anonymous letter, the judge's eyes, my father's silence. All of this became part of who I am, but it's no longer who I am. The trauma exists, but it doesn't define me. The fear existed, but it no longer rules me. And the pain I felt, however profound, now fuels my strength. I'm proud to have faced it, to not have run away, to have faced the truth, even when it was frightening. My advice to anyone experiencing something similar is, don't minimize your feelings. Don't think that because you're a man or because the person never hit you, what you're experiencing isn't abuse. Emotional abuse kills from the inside. Psychological manipulation erodes your identity. And stalking, blackmail, and control are serious forms of violence. Seek help, record it, speak up, write it down, seek therapy. You're not weak for feeling afraid. You're strong for asking for help. And above all, you're not alone, even when it seems so. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading. Writing this story was almost like therapy for me. Today, I walk with more ease, even carrying difficult memories. Life isn't perfect again, maybe it never was. But today, it's mine. I choose who to hang out with, what to keep quiet, and what to tell. And if there's one thing this experience has taught me, it's that emotional freedom is something no one should give up. If anyone tries to convince you otherwise, run. Because those who love, care. And those who care, free. After all, one of the greatest lessons I learned was the importance of setting boundaries, not just with others, but with myself as well. I realized that I often overstepped my own boundaries, trying to please, trying to keep the peace, trying to hold on to the relationship. And this made me forget about myself. Today, I've learned to say no without guilt, to be wary of what seems too good to be true, and to listen to my intuition. Signs were always there, but I was so starved for true affection that I ignored them all. Now, I choose myself. And that, for me, is true victory. Writing all this now, I see that my story wasn't just about escaping a toxic relationship, but about being born again, relearning to trust, to love, to live, relearning who I am when no one else is trying to shape me. I'm not just a victim, nor a survivor. I'm a man who went through chaos and came out the other side with wounds, yes, but also with scars that tell who I am. And if you're there, reading this in the midst of your storm, hold on. Because eventually, pain becomes strength, fear becomes alert, and silence becomes a voice, your voice.